Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education, and I'm your host, Andrew McCormick. Well, this is it, episode 104, exactly 2 years of weekly Art Ed Radio podcast. What a milestone, and what a fun ride it's been to do this with Tim. You know, as I mentioned last week, this episode is going to be the last one that I host, doing the intro, being that person who asks the questions and the outro, but also come on every once in a while, to chat with my good buddy, Tim. It has been such a thrill and such a professional accomplishment for me to be a creator of something like this. I always try to tell my students that being a creator or an uploader, if you will, is so much more fun and way more cooler than being a simple downloader or consumer of content. I'm such a huge fan of podcasts that it was about 3 years ago that I really got the itch to make one. And Derek and Jessica at the Art of Education and all the other awesome folks at AOE, Tim, Abby, Cindy, Michael, our sound guy, were so kind and welcoming in helping me make that dream of mine a reality. As I'm wrapping up this podcasting thing, I want to take one last moment to plug something that I truly believe in. This isn't just something I have to say. I truly believe it. And it's the Art of Education. And Tim and I often will come on here and tell you about a specific class or a conference talk that you're going to love. And we really mean it. We see firsthand how people use and benefit from all the great content that AOE has to offer. I know AOE totally saved my bacon this last summer. And I know it may be shocking to some of you to hear this, but I totally procrastinated on getting my teaching license renewed. I was able to take 3 classes last summer, log 7 credits all via AOE, and I learned a ton that I was able to apply to my classes this year right away. One of the things I love about AOE classes, and I say this to anyone whoever is listening to me, they're just right. And I know this firsthand because my wife just recently started an online master's program this fall, and the workload for this one little introductory class is just ridiculous. And she was really frustrated. And I, kind of looked back on my experience with AOE this summer. I was like, yeah, mine was just right. And the frustrating thing is I think that a lot of universities don't understand that people have other jobs and maybe taking other classes as well, are parents and have all the responsibilities that come along with that. So with AOE, you're definitely going to do some heavy lifting and you're going to be reworking and rethinking all that you do in your classroom. But at the end of the day, you still have enough energy and sanity left over to still be a full-time teacher, to be a full-time parent. So if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't taken an AOE class yet, what are you waiting for? They're ridiculously relevant, affordable, doable. So head on over to AOE and check out all the great classes and get your learning on. All right, so today's episode is going to be just a little weird. It's going to be mostly Tim and I kind of reminiscing about all the things that we've done in the 2+ years together, things we've learned, times we've disagreed, favorite episodes. Come along for a little nostalgic Art Ed Radio ride. Well, all right, Tim, I'm bringing you on, man. This is like my last rodeo of hosting a podcast.
I know. I'm shedding a single tear as we speak.
Man, I know you're so full of crap. It's been a lot of fun, but it's not going to be the end of me getting on airwaves and blabbing about art education. It's just I just won't be hosting them nearly so much, so I won't be blabbing as much. I won't be doing the intro and outro. But man, if you bring me on and give me a microphone, I'm going to be full of hot air as ever. So
yeah, well, we all know that's the case.
Yeah.
And really, I think you just need to admit to everybody you're taking the easy way out. You're making me do all the work for these episodes and hosting them, doing the intros, doing the outros, and you just come on and talk about whatever and making your life a lot easier.
It is, but if we're being totally honest with the listeners, it's been like that ever since the beginning. You've been the brain and I've been like the pretty one, right? Like
I suppose
you have always, since we've started this, done more work than I have, an inordinate amount. So hats off to you. Every time I think we get together with an AOE gathering, there's always like, what are you thankful for? What are you thankful for? And my answer is always Tim Bogatz, because Tim Bogatz makes me look a lot better and sound a lot smarter than I am. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think the same could be said for you, but I don't know. As long as we put out a good show, then I'm happy to do whatever.
Yeah.
So I think we're good.
Man, this is going to be kind of a nostalgic episode where we get to kind of like take a self-congratulatory final lap around things. But we've been working together for a long time. It's been a lot of fun.
We have, and this is 2 years of episodes, so that's a pretty big milestone. But quick shout out to everybody who went all the way back with us to our AOE live days. So you want to share some memories about AOE live?
I just remember every video. Here's what I remember, and some of it's helped because you can probably still find it all on YouTube. I always was incredibly panicked, sweaty, and stressed out, because it's like, oh God, it's live and there's tech issues. And Derek, we love him, but he's always like, hey guys, half hour before you go on, try this new platform. It'll be great. And it was like, I don't know what we're doing. So I think in every video I look just really hot and sweaty. And I don't know why anyone would ever want to watch me talk for 45 minutes. So I was so happy when we kind of figured out the going away from kind of the live video platform and every other week to then just audio only every week. That was like a really smart choice that we kind of did that.
Yeah, I think that works pretty well. And just to kind of set the stage for everybody, those of you that don't know, AOE Live was just every other week, like live show, like before Facebook Live even existed. We were ahead of our time.
Yeah.
And Derek is Derek Balsley, the CEO of The Art of Ed, and we both wrote to him separately saying, "Hey, I would love to host a podcast for you guys." And right when I sent my letter, like you sent a letter saying, "Hey, I'd love to host a podcast for you guys," and so. He's like, well, let's put these two together. And so a lot of people don't know, like we didn't even know each other before this whole thing started. And so, yeah, we did almost a year of those live shows and then took a short little hiatus and then jumped into this. And now we're at 2 years of episodes together. So that's it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, for sure. And it was, I thought we came together pretty well early on. We did like a pilot and it was awful, and we got lots of notes, and it's like, why the heck are you guys talking for like an hour and a half about grading practices? This is so boring. And I think we got a lot better. So yeah, it's been quite the ride.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the episode length that we usually have here, 20, 25 minutes is really the way to go. But hey, so let me ask, not to take over hosting your show here.
I'll let you.
I'm just thinking about, some of those episodes and how far we've come from those first ones that maybe weren't so good. But, what have been some of your favorite episodes that we've done?
Well, so there's two things that I think make a good episode for me, and I'm being serious here, that I like is I do like it when we can have a little bit of dissension that's honest. And I think I think people know that sometimes we have dissension that's like we're kind of playing devil's advocate and being a little extreme with each other. But when we have real like, I don't see it that way. I like that. And I also like episodes where I sometimes and you sometimes bring in stuff that like is really relevant. Like it just happened in my classroom. Like, so we're able to talk about things that worked for us and things that we're trying. And I've always really liked sharing things that are like super fresh, either like the day of or the week of. That's always been really fun for me. Now, if you hold my feet to the fire and say maybe some all-time favorite episodes, I do really like the creativity requires procrastination, because I'm still
that was one of our epic battles.
I'm still sticking to my guns, and I think like procrastination is the secret sauce of creativity. But then there's an episode that we did that I think is kind of a throwaway episode, and most people wouldn't think of it. I think about it a lot, and it's it kind of happened right around, I think, that same time. It was it was about imagination and creativity and originality. And is it okay for students to make fan art? And I still find myself kind of grappling with that, because it's like, yes, it's not original, but it is what they want to do, and it's keeping them making stuff. And I don't know. I think about that episode probably more than any others that we've ever done.
Interesting, because I had completely forgotten about that episode till you just brought it up. So, yeah, that's a good one. Let me throw a couple out there at you. I really enjoyed our Project of Doctors episodes. We did 2 of those, I think, where people wrote in with like, hey, this project isn't working for me. What would you do to fix it? And I really enjoyed, like, I don't know, kind of the advice column feel to those. Like, I really enjoy talking about all of those projects. And then I always love like our deep dives when we go into like a specific media, where we just sit around and talk about drawing for 50 minutes or, you know, I think we talked about ceramics over 2 episodes and, you know, sculpture or, you know, whatever, just really diving in. I really enjoyed those as well.
Yeah.
So let me ask you if we can go to the flip side though, like least favorite episodes. I mean, I know you like yourself, but are there any that you didn't enjoy?
Well, I mean, any of the ones that I'm not on, I'm just like,
oh, nice.
No, I actually was going to say the deep dive episodes, they're not my favorite. And I will say this, it's because I find it hard to believe that can be entertaining for anyone else other than us, who, you know, we are the ones doing the talking. And I'm like, do people really give a crap about drawing medium like 45 minutes in? And they must, I guess they do. But I mean, I like them, but they don't rank in the ones that I think skew a little bit more philosophical or, you know, whatever about the purpose of art or creativity and originality. Those are the ones that kind of get me thinking and I dig a little bit more. So I'd have to say the ones that are like, I don't know, you know me, my personality. If it's really practical, I'm kind of like, yeah, it's nice, I guess. But, you know, whatever.
Yeah, you want to look at the big picture though. Yeah. So I understand that. One that, if I can bring it up, that I actually really loved, but we were not popular people when this one came out. It was the 8 things that terrible art teachers do.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember that one? Like, there was some really negative feedback because our whole idea was just, you know, hey, maybe these are some things that you could do better. Right. You know, maybe trying to get people to kind of reflect on what they're doing. But I feel like everybody just kind of saw that title and flipped out. And we also did a very poor job of explaining, like, hey, next week we're going to talk about the 8 things that amazing art teachers do. We never said, hey, there's part 2 coming. So that looked bad. And in retrospect, I think we could have handled the rollout a little bit better with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was scandalous and people kind of got up in arms. But I mean, it did get people talking and thinking. But yeah, we weren't very popular for a while after that. And I blame you for that one. I think that was one that you handled. So
Fair enough. All right. So, and kind of in that same vein, like, who are some of your favorite guests that we talked to? If we're talking favorites, like who besides talking to me, who else do you like having on the show?
Well, I got to tell you, and she was kind of a newer addition. And the reason I loved talking to her, I think I talked to her on 2 different occasions, and maybe you talked to her once. Lindsay Moss. And one of the reasons I loved having Lindsay Moss on was when I initially approached her, I think it was about, what's working well in elementary curriculum or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. She said, "Oh, I don't know. You're not going to like my voice. I don't have a voice for radio." And I think her exact words in writing were, "Everyone tells me I sound like Kermit the Frog." So I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God, we're going to, and of course typical me episode, it's like a week behind schedule. And I'm like, screw it. I don't care what she sounds like. She's coming on the podcast because I'm done. And she has a totally fine voice. So I don't know who is telling Lindsay Moss that she doesn't have a voice for radio. Those people are haters. And she was awesome and charming and funny and witty and so smart. And she was a really good guest.
Yeah, she was just on 2 weeks ago when we did the winter conference preview, and yeah, she's awesome.
Yep.
So One that I really enjoyed hearing is anytime that you talk to Ian Sands. Like, Ian always has great things to say, and I don't always agree with him, but man, he's smart and has some really, really good ideas. So he always makes me think. I always appreciate, what he has to say. You guys did the censorship episode. I think it was called like the slippery slope of censoring student artwork. Man, that was one of my favorites that I heard from you. So shout out to Ian for
he's always a provocateur and definitely gets people thinking. I'll be honest, he's a guy that every time I go to talk to him, I'm always a little intimidated because I think he's like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think he's real smart, and he's been one of my kind of art education idols and heroes for a while, and it's kind of like, fanboy interviewing, his hero. And I always feel like I'm not exactly 100% myself because I'm a little like, oh, I don't want to screw up and sound stupid. But one of my, I always like it when we can bring people on who actually aren't in the art world, just to get a different perspective. And I think I had a couple opportunities to bring people on who were entrepreneurs, kind of like deep thinkers about, not just art education, but the way the world is going and business and that stuff. So one of my favorite episodes was when we brought Mike Wagner on, which was kind of early on. And he talked about growing creative leaders. And he had a really great quote from that episode about, that creatives, I think, are like something about the word infection was in there, that the creative minds are the infections that we want to take hold in a school district. And I was like, that was awesome. And I really enjoyed chatting with that guy back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that episode. Yeah, he was talking about how it's our job to kind of put creativity in all of our kids and just watch that sort of spread into all the other disciplines. I remember that. Yeah. And yeah, that was a really cool episode.
I remember when we first started this thing, I have some really fond memories of going to AOE headquarters in Osage, Iowa, and kind of plotting and scheming, okay, 13 episodes, and what are some of the categories and topics going to be? And I don't know what it was, but that first season, everything dealt with like death and dead people, and it was the death of creativity and
yes.
dead white guys, and everything was about death and gloom. And I just think that's really I don't know why that's a fond memory of mine, but
no, I was going to say I'm glad we've gotten past that at this point.
Well, I mean, a little bit. I think we still want to kind of push people's buttons a little bit. I mean, even we have things like, things that art teachers hate, love it or shove it. So, I mean, teachers, as a kid, it's like so weird to see that teacher out in the grocery store or something. Teachers are nuanced individuals. We have things that we despise, things that we hate, things that we begrudgingly do. And sometimes I don't think as teachers, it's like, is it okay to talk about all the things that we don't like doing or that we hate or that we think are stupid? And, it's kind of it's a counterpunch, I should say, not a 1-2 punch. Being a teacher requires so much positivity that sometimes you can get together and just be like, I need to vent and talk about all the dumb things that I hate and can't stand. And I hope that we were an avenue for that for some people driving to work every morning.
Yeah, I think that's good. You can't dwell too much in the negativity, but like you said, it's good to get it out there every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, I know that while I'm going to be done kind of hosting and plotting and making ideas for the thing, I know that you'll probably have me on from time to time when you can't find anyone better. So I'll still be kind of in people's earbuds down the road. I think it'll be interesting to think about a topic that we should do like for the first time I come back on.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Do you want something that has to do with death?
Totally. Sure. Well, no, the funny thing is one of the reasons why I've been contemplating stepping away from podcasting duties and some work with AOE is, I actually kind of feel like I'm not really an art teacher anymore. And this may sound sad, but it's not sad. I've thought about like, it's kind of the death of an art teacher. Like, And here's what I mean by that. And I'll expound on this, and then you can like pick it up and run with it for a talk later, or just let it die. At my previous job, I felt like I had kind of a niche, and it was like Mr. Creativity, right? And now that I'm in a slightly different role in a different district, my role has changed, and I feel like I'm less important and less vital as an art teacher. And there's other things that I need to do, and there's other things that I need to do for my district that is kind of pulling me away from podcasting. So I don't know that it's a death, but it's kind of an evolution, and I think that's actually really interesting as teachers, when we've been teaching for a while, that we're not the same person 15, 20 years into it, that we do start to evolve and change. And if we don't have different beliefs, we might even have completely different roles. You might talk to me in 5, 6 years, and I might flip over to the dark side and be in administration. Like, that might be crazy, but I don't know.
That would be crazy. But
fast forward 6 years, please slap some sense into me and don't let me do that. Right?
All right. Fair enough. But no, I think that is a good topic, and maybe we can cover that in the near future.
It would be cool. So I want to ask you to think, as kind of we're done in some ways in doing this together, like I said, I'll be on a little bit. Do you have some big takeaways in doing this podcast? What have you learned from it? And then maybe I'll kind of share some things that I've learned from it.
Well, man, I just always appreciate the fact that you and I can look at the big picture together. Like, there are a lot of times that, we dive into media like we talked about. But more often than not, we're talking a lot about philosophy, and we're questioning, what we do, what we should be doing. And I hope that we're encouraging people to reflect on what they're doing in their classroom, what's working for them, what maybe they can do better. And I think just being able to talk about those big picture things, those challenging things, is really gets me to reflect on, what it means to be a good teacher. And I appreciate that, I have somebody to talk about all those ideas with.
That's awesome. I'm trying to think. For me, I think, this whole crazy idea of wanting to make a podcast started because I was such a fan of podcasts, and it's been an honor, and this is going to sound a little cheesy. It's been an honor and a privilege to kind of like be involved in this with you and with AOE, and to be heard by people. And I could not be more sincere when I say this, that what everyone does who's listening to this right now, being an art teacher, it is the best job in the world. It is the most important job in the world. And I think it's the hardest job in the world. And because of that combination, I think it's the most rewarding thing in the world. And I didn't think that out there was an audio media that was like talking to people about this, about how important it is, what they're doing. And if you're struggling, it's okay. And here's how not to struggle. And it's just been amazing to think that I've been kind of with you talking to people about this. And I know that we've only scratched the surface of the good work that people can do out there. But like I said, it's just been a real privilege, and it's been like a whole lot of fun, man. It's been awesome. So
it has. I've loved every minute, and just congrats on 2 years, man. That's really awesome.
Well, that's it, folks. Thanks for Tim for all the hard work and the camaraderie this whole time that we've built up. I could not have done this without his organization and behind the scenes work. It's been a ton of fun, and I'm sure that I'll be back on in some capacity in the not too distant future. All of you awesome teachers out there, stay awesome. Art Ed Radio is developed, produced, and supported by the Art of Education with audio engineering by Michael Crocker. As always, and I'm so happy to say this, new episodes of Art Ed Radio are released every Tuesday, and additional content can be found under the podcast tab on theartofed.com. All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening this whole time. It has been an honor.